Well, we are back. It's been a couple weeks, so happy to be back on the airwaves, but not happy to be doing it on a Wednesday after the obviously awful incident that happened on Monday Night Football. We were actually going to do the show Monday and decided we'll wait for the game to play out. So here we are on a Wednesday talking about it, and obviously Damar Hamlin, Mark, has been the primary subject of sports topics over the past 2 days. If for those who somehow don't know. Just really quick, I mean, he collapsed on the field in the game, early in the game in the first quarter. What we know is that he had a heart attack of some type, a cardiac arrest, and needed to be revived by personnel on the field, including an ambulance that came onto the field, which is something I don't know that we've ever seen, certainly in the last few decades. They were able to revive him. Apparently, according to a family member, he had to be revived again at the hospital, but he was. And the latest information we have now is that he's been intubated this whole time, an induced coma, and according to some family members, some sources who are familiar with the family, say that he's on 50% oxygen instead of 100%, which is an encouraging sign. And I know that the Buffalo Bills have come out saying that they are encouraged by the whatever
Yeah.
progress that has been made. So yeah, obviously it's terrifying. Not much that we can add that hasn't already been said, Mark.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. You're just I remember, Monday night I put the game on and I'm running around the house, my wife and the stepkids, and we're, trying to get things done and keep an eye on the game. And then all of a sudden, my wife's sitting down, just like, there's like someone injured. Like, what happened? And I'm just kind of like, what? I didn't even see the play. And I'm, running around. It was getting dinner, put away. And all of a sudden, and I'm kind of looking at it going like, oh, wow, it must be something bad. We'll wait. And then all of a sudden, a couple minutes later, I come back and I'm like, they're still down. And I'm, hear Joe Buck talking about it. And then you start to realize, oh, something is really, really serious. And you start seeing the reaction of the players' faces. Um, I think the only thing we could say, we talked about before we started, like in our lifetimes as sports fans, you just don't remember ever seeing anything like this. I mean, you saw people take crazy hits and then you worry about, oh my God, will they ever walk again? But like, okay, they're alive, they're breathing, not like clear, rip the pads off, AED, chest compressions, like scary, scary stuff. Um, and I knew right away they weren't going to play that game. I hated how so much of the story became, we're waiting for the NFL to decide. Like anyone who's trying to crush
Yeah.
the NFL, like, oh, they told them warm up 5 more minutes. Like that game wasn't going to happen. The coaches alone, even if the NFL, you want to say the big bad NFL was going to try to make them go out there, you just knew they weren't going to play. It was so obvious to me they weren't going to play. And it was obvious to me as a Monday night, they weren't going to play that game. Like the game just never going to happen. When something like that happens and it's that scary and it's that real, because sports is an escape, right? It's like going to the movies. It's an escape. You're doing something that isn't of necessarily like real life. It doesn't, in the end, really matter. It doesn't matter as much as, if you want to get real for a minute, like the war that's still going on in Ukraine right now, people like fighting for their freedom. Like it's not, doesn't have those real implications. Yeah, sports is important to people, country pride. People have a lot of, some people tie their happiness in life to sports and everything, and it's great. But like this is a human being, and their life is in the balance, and so that obviously takes precedent over anything. You just keep hoping for good news. I just keep waiting for that tweet from Schefter, whoever, like he's awake, he's responding, and that's what we'll keep hoping for until it happens. It's going to be a big storyline. I mean, as long as he's in the hospital, I'll just also say shout out to everyone who's donated to his charity.
Yeah,
Shout out, I
that's
know,
so
to
cool.
other NFL players started. I think there was an actual GoFundMe as well, just for him in general and his
Yes.
family to like support the family. Not that he necessarily maybe needs any. I'm sure the Bills would take care of all the medical expenses. The NFL will. But you know what I mean? Like other things, like he's going to have a lot of family that are trying to get in there, people staying in hotel rooms. And I'm sure that stuff's comped anyways, but just as a nest egg for his family and everything like this, because at this point in time, it does feel as though it would be really, really um, so much would have to happen. Never see Damar Hamlin play football again. And I don't know if he'd ever want to play football again. Who knows
Yeah,
if he makes it through this really sketchy, scary time that he's going through right now. And so that's the type of heartwarming stuff that you do love to see to responding to this. And we keep hoping and knocking on wood here, you and I, that we'll get that good tweet hopefully soon. And we'll keep thinking of him. I'm glad the NFL postponed the game. I'm from the looks of it, I'm glad they're just not going to play the game and just kind of call it a wash, not even a tie. Just the Bills and the Bengals played 16 games. Everyone else played 17. I know that's probably going to hurt the Bills if the Chiefs win this weekend and the Bills win. We'll talk about all the scenarios, but I think in the end, that's just the only logical thing that makes sense. We all can kind of agree to it, and we move forward. And we just keep our thoughts in the back of our head on Damar and his family, and hoping we get that good news that he's up and he's doing well and he's out of the woods.
Yeah, that's really all that matters at this point. Just hoping that he's okay and at least will be down the road. So obviously thinking about him and his family members, it's an impossible, time for a lot of them to even process, I imagine, right now. But yeah, the players too. I mean, I've heard a lot of talk about therapy for the players, and I think that is it's good that that's entered the conversation because
Absolutely.
that's got to be just a complete trip right there. Like you don't need, like, just in the middle of battle, you're already got adrenaline, all these other emotions going through your body, and then it stops on a dime.
No.
You have to process something like that on a field of which you play on a weekly basis. So
I think that is such a great point you made there, and an underrated talking point in all of this is that this is, I mean, listen, there's a reason why we're reacting like this in the sports world, because it's become a giant story. I mean, it was leading the Today Show for 2 mornings in a row. I mean, this is national news because we've never seen this. I mean, the last time we've seen anything like this, I was trying to do some digging. There was an NHL player in the late 90s took a puck to the chest and he had to be revived, but then he was back, like, awake and alert. And once they revived, like,
It's different. I mean, look, it's 2015 when Ryan Shazier went
got
down.
paralyzed.
That was terrifying. Obviously, it was really scary, and he got paralyzed on that hit. That is probably the closest thing in terms of my memory over the last 25 years. But that, even though that is considered close, it's still not like you knew watching this game. It wasn't even that. Like we were, worried about
knowing
life
that
and death in the mix.
Alive. It's like it's just a different level. There was a moment where he was dead on the field, and I think, again, it is really, really rare. And if you're a football player, you have to remind yourself of that. Like, hey, this is a, one of the doctors are talking about, if it is what they think it was, where he took the hit at the right spot with the right pressure
in between
like
beats.
that half second, like half a bill a second in between beats, or threw off the rhythm or whatever. Think about how many hits in football happen in the NFL every week, let alone every year. And we've never seen this before. I mean, apparently an NFL player did die after a game, like on the field, like
room.
Like died, but again, like in this moment, and even that was like in the 1970s. I remember it was Peter King talking about that on Colin Cowherd show, and that was before Peter King started covering the NFL. So this is a very, very, very rare occurrence. And I think there's a reason why you're also not seeing some sort of backlash, like we need to ban the NFL, because that's not what this moment is about. Obviously, the NFL has made huge strides in player safety. They will continue to make strides in player safety. But like MMA, like being a NASCAR driver or an IndyCar driver, there's only being an NFL player, there is only a certain amount of safety you can actually have. In the end, it's still a violent game. NASCAR drivers, you're going 190 miles an hour into a turn. Like, it's a violent sport. Like, it is this isn't golf. This is not tennis. This is not swimming, where, I mean, you could have a cardiac episode during one of those because you're exerting a lot of physical, but this is a physically violent sport, like hockey, like rugby, football, NASCAR. I mean, these are violent sports, MMA, boxing. And so there's only a certain level of safety you can make it. And you hope and knock on all the wood that we in our lifetimes never have to see anything like this again during an NFL game or any sort of a major sporting event because it is horrifying. I mean, we saw it at the World Cup qualifying. What was it, 2 years ago with the soccer player who
That's right.
I can't remember what team is for, Norway or one of the Netherlands or
Yeah.
something like that. Their captain like had a cardiac episode on the field. I mean,
Christian Eriksen.
yeah, Christian Eriksen, but it
was
is
from,
scarier
the
when you can
Danish.
actually see the hit. Like you see T. Higgins and him collide, and so you can kind of see here's the point where it happened, as opposed to just this kind of invisible moment where a player collapses, like you've seen on NBA courts, on in soccer fields before.
Yeah.
Again, your heart just breaks, and you hope that the young man can. Again, I just keep saying, I keep waiting for that tweet, like that's like he's up, he's okay, he's awake, and we'll keep thinking of him until we get that.
Definitely wishing him all the best. In terms of the game, Mark, and we're gonna have a little bit different of a flow here on the Football Lounge. This time around, the playoff scenarios are clear now in terms of what needs to happen next week to round out our entire playoff picture. So we're going to spend most of this episode discussing what needs to happen this upcoming week to round out the playoffs, kind of who's already clinched and what's on the line, and then go through some notes as well throughout the league, some start decisions, things of that sort. But before that, with the game, the latest I saw, Mark, and you alluded to it there at the end, so it's perhaps something I missed, but the latest I saw was that they're not going to replay it this week, but that they haven't decidedly called the game technically yet.
That's
so
the NFL
is there a
statement.
possibility that they push that to the game before the playoffs, and then push the playoffs back? Because I've heard these discussions happening about messing with the playoff schedule and not having a week in between the conference championship and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think the NFL wants to do that. I think the NFL knows in the end they market these dates. These are dates they own on the calendar already. They'd be risking a lot to do all of that. And for what? The possibility that the Bills get the 1 seed as opposed to the Chiefs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It just seems at the end of the day that, like, if you're talking about a slight seeding difference, it'd probably be a different case if someone was fighting for the playoffs in general. If one of these teams needed to get into playoffs,
yes,
you may have a little more urgency. So I guess in that regard, the NFL kind of lucked out with the two teams.
Yeah.
Not worrying about that aspect of it.
I also think, part of me thinks, I think if you really pulled the Bills and Bengals players, every single one of them would just say, fuck it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the Bengals are already scheduled to play Saturday. It's Wednesday. I mean, this is going to haunt them. I don't expect the Bengals to come out and play well on Saturday. I don't know how you expect the Bills to come out and play well on Sunday. I mean, but it's already a dark cloud over them all. And so for them have to think, all right, and now they're going to have a standalone game, a week from Saturday, and then the playoffs happen. I don't think they want that attention. I don't think the NFL wants that. I mean, especially, let's be honest, if things are still really bad for DeMar, that's a bad look. Like, you know what I mean? In a week and a half from now, the Bills and the Bengals are playing a standalone game and DeMar's still in the hospital, like, on life support or something. I mean, it's just not a good look. I think if I was in the NFL, if I had any say, I would tell them, just walk away from it. It's not ideal, but this is a really horrific and unideal circumstance, and a human being's life is on the line.
It's such an anomaly.
It's such an anomaly. And again, I think if you really pulled Bills and Bengals players, they would say, listen, I there's nothing we could do. Just, it sucks. If you're a Bills fan and we've talked about how many times we talked about the number 1 seed being really important for them. But I'd also argue at this point in time, I think the Bills, if they can get their minds right, are going to be playing for a lot more. I mean, they're going to talk about a team that's going to be really motivated to come out and play well and win one for DeMar. I mean, like, and for the Bengals players as well. Like, I mean, that was such a jarring experience for them, could rally for them as well. You hate to think of it in any of those terms because it's such a human story, but I don't see any way it makes sense this game gets played. So I know that's what the NFL is saying from my perspective. And if I was in charge, I would just wash my hands of it and just say, focus on week 18. These two teams are going to be in the playoffs. And we hope that they have great week 18s to solidify whatever spots they can get in the playoffs. And then good luck once the playoffs start. Everything will stay on schedule. And our thoughts and all our focus is still with DeMar and his family. That's what I would do.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think that's the best way to move forward and just get through it. I mean, I guess you could essentially give them a tie if you wanted to, but it's probably best to just leave it off.
How does that help? Would that help or hurt their records at all? I mean,
I don't think it would have really affected either way because the race is so tight. I think it might affect the Bengals, perhaps in terms of them getting the division.
The Bengals have clinched the division, though, right?
I think they just clinched playoffs. I could be wrong here.
I thought
they have just clinched playoffs. They've only clinched playoffs, but they play the Ravens. So the thing is, even if you put the tie in there, I think that they would still have to, win that game against the Ravens to clinch it, and so
yeah,
I think overall it probably wouldn't make a difference, and it really doesn't matter either way because, like we said, both teams are in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so. It would only be a matter of seeding, really, at the end of the day. So, well, we've got some notes to go through before we get to these playoff scenarios and then this upcoming slate of games that we'll talk about. Obviously, now we're not focused on any of the teams that aren't in the mix, although there's quite a few in the mix, so we'll probably focus on most teams. But for those, the Texans, the Bears, the Cardinals, all of that, we're not going to spend too much time on the Rams, etc. Let's get to the Bears though real quick in our notes segment here because Justin Fields will not be playing week 18. It was announced. Nathan Peterman getting the start. I think it's probably for the best overall. I mean, he's battled injuries throughout the season. It's best to keep your young quarterback who has shown enough that he's going to be the franchise guy moving forward. However, Mark, obviously the kind of elephant in the room surrounding this decision is that Justin Fields is 64 yards shy of breaking Lamar Jackson's all-time season rushing record by a quarterback, which is 1,206 yards back in 2019. How much stock are you putting in that? Are you bummed about it? I mean, what's the feel there?
Yeah, I'm bummed for him because I think I think this is the most prolific season a quarterback has had rushing the football in NFL history. Even though Lamar's got more yards and Michael Vick may have been more electric and in winning games. I mean, Justin Fields it didn't start until like week 7 that they were like, oh, we should just run Justin Fields. And he's become, in my opinion, over the last, 8-9 weeks of the season, he has become one of the top 3 or 4 biggest playmakers in the NFL. And I think that's what's asserted him to the Bears will be picking 1 or 2. And there's no thought they should take a quarterback at all because he's just become that special playmaker, especially with the quarterbacks that are at the 1 and 2 spot. Maybe if there was a Trevor Lawrence type of player, there would be some real argument, I think, for the Bears. But with Bryce Young, he's a slightly bigger right-handed, a little more athletic version of Tua, in my opinion. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Tua, kind of a Kyler Murray-esque when you look at number 1 overall pick potential, like throws a really good ball, but a little undersized. Kyler Murray, quite a bit undersized. And then for CJ Stroud is a less mobile Justin Fields, more pocket Justin Fields. So like, it's not like
it's not a discussion.
It's not really a discussion. I think most NFL execs right now would take Justin Fields over Young and Stroud. Maybe there would be some that would take Young over Fields, but Stroud, I think certainly it'd be lean towards Justin Fields. So either way,
yeah, I mean, you take the sure thing anyway, even if it's close. You know what Justin can do at the pro level. You don't know what Bryce Young could do at the pro level. But
absolutely.
Could it have worked out any better, really, for the Bears? You get a year where you see a lot of promise. You trade for a good weapon, and amidst all of that, amidst the knowledge that you have your quarterback of the future, that he's a stud, you still get the number 1 pick in a year where you weren't even expecting to go to the playoffs anyway. To me, I mean, I think I don't know if things could have worked out better for the Bears in this regard.
The only thing that sucks about it is I look back at how I felt this Bears season going in, is that I felt like this Bears team did have a core that was like, oh, okay, I want to see this core perform. Then the way the season then went, you start realizing, remember, the Bears were alive. I mean, they were 3-4, I believe. This is a 9-game.
Yeah, and they were
losing
hard
streak.
out. They battled, and they
And
still did throughout the end of the year.
Yeah,
Just lost every game. But
when they
yeah.
decided to trade Quinn and Roquan, that's when the Bears brass made a decision. We are further away. This core is not ready yet. Remember, I used to say that all the time when the Bears were 3-4 9 weeks ago. There's still like 5 A players and 3 B players away from being a real competitive team. And they got rid of 2 of their A players. And then injuries started piling up. Eddie Jackson, you know what I mean? Darnell Mooney. And you just started, once all of that piled on, yes, the best thing to do was to hey, can you get a top 10 draft pick? Can you get a top 5 draft pick? And now in the past couple of weeks, they may end up with the number 1 overall draft pick. So this is what they're going for. They're going to root for the Texans to win. They're going to start Nathan Peterman, hope he loses. And the Bears could be a team like a Jaguars this year, like the teams in the past goes from worst to first really quickly, because if they can get a king's ransom for the first pick, they would get a king's ransom for the first pick, and they'd get a really nice haul for the second overall pick. And with the draft picks they've already gained and the pieces they've already gained from the trades they made with Quinn and Roquan Smith, plus no one has even close to the cap space they have. They have more money to spend than everyone. The Bears are an open cupboard with a couple really, really nice pieces. So everything's all signs point to yes. And I think that's why they made the decision to sit Justin Fields. They need to lose this game to assure they at least get the number 2 pick. The loss could get them the number 1 pick depending on the Texans game, but also the worst thing to happen right now would be a freak injury to Justin Fields in the final week. I mean, you
can't have that.
A nightmare scenario. Nightmare scenario. Now, you never know what's going to happen. And knock on wood for always for injuries. You never know what's going to happen. But this guarantees you get to at least go into the offseason and the training and the training camp next year with a healthy Justin Fields. And now Ryan Poles has almost as many draft picks as anyone and more money than anyone in the NFL to go to work to build this team now around Justin Fields. So it's an exciting time. Bummer because he does deserve the record, but this is the right decision to make.
So it is the Nate Peterman Show, and it is the Sam Howell Show in Washington.
Sam Howell
going to start the rookie out of North Carolina in the finale. Per Field Yates, he said that Howell will become the 65th different starting quarterback in the NFL this season. That marks the most different starting quarterbacks in a single season in the NFL, excluding the 1987 strike year, which obviously we know what happened with that, the replacements, all of that good stuff. But yeah, some rare company is the 2022 season when it comes to quarterback play. And a similar situation for the Commanders, just not going anywhere at this point. They're just in a difficult spot, not in the hunt. And so they're going to give the rookie a shot, see what they have in him. I'm all for that as well. Meanwhile, in New York, the New York Jets and Robert Saleh seem to be, at least in the media, very firm on their stance with quarterback Zach Wilson, saying that through hell or high water, that is a direct quote, that they will work to maximize his potential. I kind of feel like a lot of this, Mark, is just them saying this, not wanting to cause a bunch of distractions mid-season or, at the end of the season still in play. But I'm not totally convinced that this is the stance of the organization as a whole, given that we could potentially see some movement in the draft. And I'm sure they would take a quarterback if they had a top pick.
I struggle with this, though, because I tend to agree with you, but also then when you eventually trade him or cut him, you set yourself up a little bit for that. If I'm a free agent or something, do I really want to go somewhere where it's like, hey, they say one thing and then they obviously do another thing? I think they're setting themselves up for that a bit. Or the GM is at least going to take the fall for it versus Saleh. Their Saleh might be saying to them, listen, I need to be a player's coach, and I need to know, I want my players to know I have their back no matter what. If you cut them, that's your decision, but I want, at least in the media, even then, I don't love that explanation because that's a lot of like back dealing about what we need to appear versus who we truly are. It's a weird situation. The Jets are primed, in my opinion, to be active in the quarterback market. And maybe they're already
They need to get Derek Carr.
Yeah, well,
That's
they do. But maybe they're already concerned about what that quarterback market's looking like. Maybe they feel like they have already heard some stuff that it's not going to fall their way, that Derek Carr's not interested or other things. So maybe they are really trying to butter Zach up a bit to try to get him to commit this offseason and come into camp. And I mean, they don't owe him much money. You bring him into camp, you might as, to give him a chance. Who knows? I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't love this as a Jets fan, though. I want to cut ties and move forward. You have a great core. You have a culture that seems to be transitioning. You have a coach that you kind of believe in, and a defense you certainly love. And I would be ready to just move on and start fresh.
Finally, before we get into these playoffs, David Tepper has allegedly, reportedly been in talks with Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, about, possibly becoming the future head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Of course, this is just through sourcing of various reporters out there, some beat reporters suggesting that these talks have taken place, but it does seem to have gained some steam. It seems credible. Jim Harbaugh possibly on the move back to the NFL, and apparently the price tag to get him to the league would be upwards of $20 million a year. If there's an owner willing to pay it, it's probably David Tepper. But that is certainly interesting. Meanwhile, for the Panthers in general, if they could get Jim Harbaugh, I think you should absolutely pounce. The guy was great in his years in the NFL, just had some disagreements, obviously, with the organization in San Francisco, but had a lot of success there with Colin Kaepernick, with Alex Smith as his quarterbacks, even getting to a Super Bowl over that span. Would he leave Michigan? That is the big question, really, especially now that they finally got not only momentum, but a solidified kind of power within the Big Ten to compete against Ohio State. So I'm curious on your thoughts. One, would this be a good move for Jim Harbaugh? And two, would this be, ideal for Carolina and company?
Jim Harbaugh's not a young man. I will just say this. Yeah. I think Jim Harbaugh understands that he wants one more run at the NFL. I think Jim Harbaugh in the last couple of years has wanted to get back to the NFL. Remember, Michigan made him take a pay cut like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was big.
And then he immediately turned it around last year with the playoff appearance and another back-to-back playoff appearances, back-to-back wins over Ohio State. I think Jim Harbaugh knows his stock is as high as it's going to be. I think he knows deep down it's going to be hard to beat Ohio State again next year. It's going to be really hard to make the playoffs again next year. We got USC and UCLA coming to the Big Ten. The college landscape is continually changing.
But he finally gets a quarterback. Right?
Yeah, but he also can leave Michigan saying, you're welcome. Like, I pulled you from the depths of nothing. I got you to the playoff. I got you a quarterback. I did all these things for you. I think Jim Harbaugh deep down wants to win at the NFL level. He got really close. He made a Super Bowl. He made a couple NFC championship games. Things ended really poorly with the Niners, and he did all that with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. And so he's good with the mobile quarterback. And that's the way the NFL is going now as well. He also, remember how much success Chip Kelly had right into the NFL. Guys, now Chip Kelly forced his system, and that's why he flamed out. Remember with Pete Carroll, how much success he had right when he got to the NFL. Harbaugh's going to have a leg up. He knows everyone who is, all the rookies and second year and third year guys, he's going to know them really well. And all the guys in the next 2 or 3 drafts, he's going to know really well because he's been recruiting them all from a big program in Michigan. So I think he sees this as an opportunity to get a gigantic payday, to make one more run at the NFL. I think this is really real. I think he wants to drive up his price, and I think he's open to Denver or Carolina because I think he knows In Denver, he'd at least have Russell Wilson, and I think he thinks that he can make that work. And in Carolina, I think he sees it as an opportunity where it's a clean slate to go get a quarterback, whatever that quarterback may be, someone already in the NFL, or go up and get aggressive and draft someone. Like Carolina's prime to me. If Chicago ends up at the 1 spot or the 2 spot, Carolina is prime as a team to, like David Tepper, to be aggressive. Like, let's go get our guy. Like, they just seem like they're ready to do that. They let Justin Fields pass by them. They've made bad moves before. I think they're ready to be aggressive. So I think Harbaugh to the NFL is really real. And I think if I'm Harbaugh, there will be jobs for you in the NFL next year, the year after probably. But you're getting older, and you're never going to – this is the time to capitalize on a bigger payday. So I think it's all really real. Problem is, I think Sean Payton is the prize possession right now. But I think Sean Payton does not want to fix the Denver mess. And Sean Payton, I think, is waiting, because I think there's going to be, you never know. There's always a playoff disappointment. Same thing may happen with the Cowboys or something. Who knows? If the Cowboys lose to the Bucs in round 1, you think Jerry is going to be like, all right, let's just bring it on back again? Like, I think Sean Payton's waiting, and that's going to delay a lot of teams on Harbaugh, because Sean Payton's number 1. Harbaugh is a close 2, but everyone, I think, would prefer to have Payton over Harbaugh. I would, at least.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I am curious to see how interested Harbaugh is in Carolina because of the situation. There's no guarantee that they're going to have a quarterback of the future there, and I'm not sure Harbaugh wants to go through 3 or 4 year process of rebuilding entirely, as as you mentioned, isn't getting any younger. So I think Denver would probably be a more smart fit for him overall. And it's closer to the West Coast and all of that stuff. Obviously, he has a lot of familiarity there, but with Stanford and coaching with the 49ers. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of development in the 2023 offseason talk. Kind of gets us jump started there. But let's get into these playoffs. That is what you're here for. We're only a cool 30 minutes into the episode, but here we go.
Yeah.
With our playoff situations. This is what happens when you give these two guys a mic. We just, we like to talk football and all things.
We haven't been on in a week and a half.
We needed some time to get through all of these. Absolutely. So I don't believe a single seed has been clinched, although with the Bills Bengals game likely not being played, the Chiefs then would clinch the number 1 seed in the AFC, but we're kind of open there. However, in both conferences, we are only looking for a 7th seed primarily, or the final spot, I should say. The
only seed that's been clinched, I believe, in the NFC is the 4th seed by the Bucs.
4-seeded Bucs, yeah, because they did get the division. Yes, you are correct, because they are none of the other teams are in danger of going 8-9 or 9-8 at the worst.
And I believe because the 6th seed has been clinched by the Giants, because it's either going to be the Cowboys.
Yeah, you're right.
It's either going to be the Cowboys or the Eagles in the 5th, and then the Giants are not going to fall to the 7th. The 7th will be the Packers, the Lions, or the Seahawks.
Yeah, and the worst that they could have is 7 losses, whereas the Seahawks and the others would have 8 losses.
Yeah, it's weird, but I think the 6th seed has been clinched and the 4th seed has been clinched.
Yeah.
Which means,
but yeah, the Eagles lost again, so the 2 weeks without Jalen Hurts, they were really close. It seemed to starting Jalen this past week to help lock it up against. I'm already forgetting who their opponent this past week was. They play the Giants this week. The Saints. There you go. So they keep kind of, kicking the can down the road a little bit, leaving room for the 49ers to potentially get there, but we'll kind of go over that. So let's talk about the NFC first, then we'll go into the AFC. So these are who has clinched, and then I'll get into the scenarios for this week. The clinched playoffs are the Eagles, 49ers, Vikings, Bucks, Cowboys, and Giants. The NFC East has not yet been clinched. The NFC North has with Minnesota. The NFC West with the 49ers has been. And so the NFC South as well with the Buccaneers. So the only division yet to be clinched is the East, and we're still looking for those other seeds that we mentioned. So the team right now is the Seattle Seahawks, that if the playoffs were to start today, they would be in as the number 7 seed, but they are not out of the weeds just yet. So the Seattle Seahawks need to get a win and a Green Bay loss next week to claim a playoff berth. Meanwhile, the Packers are in with a win over the Lions.
That's what's confusing to me. Why
I know, because they're not
the Packers in right now, because they are the ones that control their destiny.
The only thing I can think of is division record then.
So it's as of right now, it's division record is why because Seattle does not control their own destiny.
Seattle does not control its own destiny.
Packers are winning,
and that is confusing to me. Like I agree with you on that part, because if Seattle wins, they are also playing a division opponent. So
yeah,
I don't get how if they win, it doesn't equal
because
that.
of who it must be because the Packers beating the Lions. Like say maybe if the Packers were playing the Bears, like maybe the
common opponents, perhaps. I don't know
maybe
if they played
the win
each other.
would. Yeah, it's got to be something like the win would matter enough because it's like a divisional opponent with a record, a winning record, or something like that.
Did the NFC North play the NFC West this year?
Yeah.
Did the Bears? Okay, so
the Seahawks beat. Because
if the Bears played the Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers this year, and the Cardinals
Bears did not play the NFC West, all the NFC West.
All right.
Because
I was thinking common opponents too, like head-to-head and common opponents.
The Seahawks beat the Lions. That's why the Lions need the Seahawks to lose. Which the Lions could get that. The Seahawks are playing the Rams, and the Rams. It's Baker Mayfield. His final chance to put some good film out there. Rams have been playing. I mean, they got the 1 win, the 2 wins. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, it's not out of the woods. The Seahawks could lose.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. That's very much in play. For the Lions, it's pretty simple for them too. Although they need a little bit of help. So really, of these 3 teams in contention, Green Bay is the one with the clearest path, win, and they're in. Whereas Seattle needs to win and it needs Green Bay to lose. The Lions need to beat the Packers and they need Seattle to lose. So even if the Lions win, the Seahawks going to 9-8 would not be their friend, as they have that tiebreaker over them, and they would take the 7th seed.
And what's glorious about the NFL moving the Packers Lions to Sunday Night Football, it's in Green Bay, right?
The game is in Green Bay, yes.
Is that no matter what happens that game, obviously the Packers win and they're in. So that'll be exciting for the nation to watch. And the Packers are a huge draw.
And it'll be Sunday Night Football, so we'll kind of know what's on the line at that point.
If at that point in time the Seahawks have already won and the Lions are eliminated, the Lions have a chance to prevent the Packers from getting in. So
they'll still be motivated to play.
I don't think the Lions would be any less motivated. That alone will motivate them. The Lions, like the Bears and the Vikings, the Packers are the evil doer. That is the pure evil of the division. And then it's, the Packers, they just take pleasure in beating the Bears. So it's like the Lions, that'll be meaningful football for them anyway. So this is much easier to sort out than the kind of 1 seed, 5 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. It's a much more convoluted picture at the top of the NFC.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of that number 1 seed, the Eagles would clinch it. They would clinch the division with a win or a Dallas loss. So either one of those 2 scenarios, they clinch the division. They could clinch the number 1 seed if they get a win, or both Dallas and San Francisco lose as well.
Yeah.
So there's still those opportunities out there for the Eagles, which makes me think that they may turn back to Gardner Minshew once again. Although like we've talked about in the past, you really want Jalen Hurts to be nearly 2 months without football before getting thrown into a playoff game. I mean, that's a tough sell. But if he's not ready to go, you probably don't want to risk that too much. And, Gardner can get you the win against the Giants. Certainly is capable of that. San Fran, though, could get the number 1 seed if they win and Philadelphia loses. So that's the path for the 49ers.
Yeah, Minnesota
and Philly loses.
Minnesota can't get the 1 seed, but Dallas,
they are out of contention.
Dallas and San Fran can.
Yes.
So this is really important. Philly San Francisco, Dallas, whoever gets the 1 seed to me will become the instant favorite in the NFC. I don't think any of those teams right now, I don't trust any of them to win the Super Bowl. Like, no, like if Philly in the last 2 weeks has fallen off for me, not because they've lost 2 in a row and they just got to downgrade them. They've got beat up in those 2 games, like injured wise. Lane Johnson, there's all this, like he's now going to postpone surgery to keep playing. You never love to see that. Like it's an injury that probably should get some surgery, but they're going to not do it. They lost another one of their edge rushers. Their defensive line got a little beat up. So Philly is worrying me. Obviously, Jalen Hurts' health is a concern into that as well. As much as the Niners are playing really good football, it's Brock Purdy. So like I just don't know how to feel come the playoffs with Brock Purdy. So it's really, really important for all 3 of them to get the 1 seed. I think if you're the Giants, you look at it like this. If I was the Giants, you're not going to have to play either the Cowboys or the Eagles in the first round because the Giants are the 6th seed. So there's most likely the Giants will have to play either the Vikings or the Niners in the first round.
I think they could play the Cowboys though, right? They could, yeah.
If the Cowboys win, the Eagles lose, but the Niners, you know what I mean? Like there's chances, but
it's unlikely.
It is less likely. I just think if I'm the Giants, I may also, you're the 16 no matter what. I may rest guys. Like if I'm the Giants, I might rest guys and take this as kind of like a bye week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, definitely like Saquon and stuff like that.
So I think I'm going to predict the Eagles win and they lock up the 1 seed. They get a win and it's kind of a reset for the Eagles. And that's what I'm going with. That's what my gut
says. With Minshew or with Jalen Hurts?
No, I think Hurts is going to play.
You think he's going to play?
I think
if he does play, that they definitely win in Clinton.
I think they're panicking, and I think they're going to play him. And so I also at that point,
look how valuable that buy is. We've talked about it before. Like,
I know
this is no joke. I mean, wins are hard to come by in the NFL, right? We've talked about it a million times. Like now that there's only one team that gets a bye, that is the extra special, treat at the end of it. So yeah, if I were them, you probably do want to go head first at this thing and try and get that.
I think the Eagles, this is my prediction. I think the Eagles, the Niners, and the Cowboys will all win. So if that happens, what happens, Dan? It's Eagles 1, Niners 2, Cowboys 2. 5. Vikings will.
Well, it depends. If the Vikings lose, Cowboys can jump up to 3 then.
Well, no, because I'm taking the Eagles win, so they're going to win their division. So the highest Cowboys
right, yeah, yes,
is 5.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
So I'm going Eagles. Correct. I'm going Eagles 1. If the Niners win, they clinch the 2. Correct.
If the Niners win, they clinch the 2. Yeah,
okay,
they'd be 13-4, regardless of what the Vikings do.
I'm predicting. Let's put it on record. Eagles 1 seed, Niners 2 seed, Vikings 3 seed, Bucks 4 seed, Cowboys 5, Giants 6, and I want it to be the Lions so bad.
I think we both, and that's the sentiment. Most people want Detroit. Out of these 3 teams, let's get Detroit in there. But
what I really want, what I really want is the Rams to beat the Seahawks, because I don't want to see the Seahawks in it. I don't want to see the Seahawks. So I'm going to predict the Rams beat the Seahawks.
And you'd like to see the Lions play the Cowboys with both teams fighting for that spot.
Yeah, the Lions, Packers with everything on the line, win and get in.
That'll be a great Sunday night game.
And so I'll make a bold prediction. I'm going to say that the Baker Mayfield leads the Rams to an upset victory over the Seahawks. And I'm going to take Jared Goff to throw 3 touchdowns.
Woo.
Aaron Rodgers to throw a late pick, and the Detroit Lions win Sunday Night Football, take care of the Packers. So my prediction:
you're right.
Eagles, Niners, Vikings, Bucks, Cowboys, Giants, Lions. And I'll say this. If it's not the Lions, I want the Packers to get in so they get absolutely shit rocked by the Niners in San Francisco again.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's a win-win then, really.
I want it. How many? 3 years in a row, 4 of the last 6 years.
That's true. It would be a perfect situation to set up for them to go back to.
It's just face F by the Niners again.
This is my prediction here. I think I agree with you on the Rams. I think it's a mix of things. They got that Baker swag with them. They've had nothing to play for really, except for pride the past couple weeks, and they played pretty well. Seattle has been spiraling, and I think they're taking too many risks at this point. That's kind of a dangerous thing to do with a team that has nothing to lose. I kind of feel like that's all setting it up. And part of me wants this to be the case as well. So I'm going to throw that in there. I'm going to say the Rams beat the Seahawks. We're going to Sunday Night Football with a chance to see both teams playing for it. And then I think those evil bastards in Wisconsin are going to ruin the whole narrative and win, and then get into the playoffs here, and then they'll lose to the 49ers in the that first opening round of playoffs.
If that's what happens, I'm okay with it.
That's all right.
But I'll just say this. Lions, Niners, I could smell an upset.
Yes. Lions, Niners, there you go. I think we'd both take the 49ers.
All right. So I think that's a good look at the NFC playoffs. I'll just say this. In the end, the worst case scenario for the NFC playoffs. Here's the thing. If I'm the NFL and I'm looking at it, in the NFC, I think the Eagles are a great story, and Jalen Hurts is a marketable future star, and Philly is a great market. They won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, but it's a different vibe. It's not like the Patriots and now they're back again. If I'm the NFL, I look at the NFC and I'm pro the Eagles winning the NFC. The NFL would be pro the Cowboys winning the NFC because of ratings. Fans, I also think it'd be a great talking point. And then the Niners, but as far as a really good Super Bowl game, at this point in time, I think the only two teams that would be even competitive with whoever makes it out of the AFC of the juggernaut big three, because I think it's going to be one of the big juggernaut three in the AFC. I think the Eagles and the Niners could be competitive. It would at least be a fun Super Bowl, intriguing Super Bowl to watch. The Niners, a lot of them have been there before. Best defense in football. They have a ton of weapons. And with the Eagles, they can score. Jalen Hurts is a weapon. They have great wide receivers. They have a great defensive front, a solid offensive line. So they could hang tough with Mahomes and Allen and Burrow throwing them right hooks and left hooks. So if I'm the NFL, any of those three teams making the Super Bowl would be, I think, a win. For us as fans, as far as good games go, I think Eagles or Niners. I don't think the Cowboys would be very competitive in the NFL in a Super Bowl versus.
I don't think so either. I don't think the Cowboys get to the championship game. I'm still not high on them. We'll talk more next week when we kind of get into our playoff predictions.
Yeah.
But I just, they have talent, but they've had talent for the last decade. Are you feeling very similar to Minnesota for me?
Yeah. Well, and we've talked all along about Minnesota and not believing in them. And last week was a great example. I know we didn't recap last week's games, but that game was a great example of why we've said all freaking season, you can't trust Kirk Cousins. That was pathetic.
Terrible.
Green Bay, the Vikings were playing for everything. The 1 seed was still on the line for them. They lay an egg like that, and Kirk Cousins looked terrible. They could only get to, honestly, Justin Jefferson's the MVP for the Vikings. They held him to one catch for 7 yards, and they were just and the Vikings were overwhelmed by a Packers team that is playing better, but the Packers are not a great football team. It just was. But that's Kirk Cousins. That is why we weren't scared of the Vikings. And the Vikings are going to make the playoffs. The Vikings could maybe win a game, but we're not scared of them at all.
No, definitely not. All right, let's shift gears to the AFC. We also have 6 teams that have made it and clinched a spot in the playoffs. That is the Chiefs, the Bills, Bengals, Chargers and Ravens. So, Ravens and Bengals playing this week now for the division, with that on the line, and potentially bumping the Bengals out of the 3 seed all the way down to the, well, I guess it'd be the 5 for them. Most likely, I don't know how it would shake out with the Chargers. Should the Chargers win, they play the Broncos.
Yeah.
But right now, Chargers at the 5 seed, Ravens at the 6 seed. And then we've got, about 5 teams really in the hunt here. So we know that on Saturday night, the Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans are going to play for the AFC South. Both teams playing for the division with all of that on the line. However, the Jags could, even with a loss, still technically make the playoffs as a wild card team. They would need a lot of help. They would need Pittsburgh, Miami, and New England all to lose, but there is a pathway there. Tennessee's only path to the playoffs, however, is beating Jacksonville this Saturday night to win the division. The Chiefs would get the number 1 seed if the Buffalo-Cincinnati game just straight up doesn't happen, which we think is going to be the case. Chiefs then are going to get the 1 seed. The Patriots, they have the clearest path to the playoff of anyone in the hunt. They win, they're in. They play the Buffalo Bills, though, in Buffalo. Tough one there against the Bills, division rival, all of that. We know that. And now knowing that the Bills are still going to be playing for something, they're going to be playing for a spot and as the 2 seed, as opposed to a lower seed there. The Dolphins, they need a win at home against the Jets and a New England loss to Buffalo, which seems likely. So the Dolphins have the second easiest road to the playoffs here.
They're starting a third stringer, it looks like.
And it looks like, Skylar Thompson's going to be the guy at quarterback with Teddy Bridgewater breaking his finger or something similar to that. I don't know if it was like a clear break, but a finger injury that's keeping him out. We know Tua is not healthy enough to play. So this is a tough situation for Miami as well. And a home game against the Jets, maybe before the season, seemed a little bit more of a gimme than it does right now, even though they've kind of had a quarterback carousel there in New York. The Steelers then come into play here. They need a win over Cleveland, and they need a Miami loss to New York and a New England loss to Buffalo. Both seem, somewhat certainly plausible, as we've talked about here. But the Steelers would need those to play out to get in as well. So those are the scenarios there for those remaining, 5 teams really that are playing for contention. But all 5 competing just for essentially 1 spot right now in the playoffs.
Let's just start with Saturday. I think it's easy for me to sit here and say I feel very confident the Chiefs will beat the Raiders, locking up the 1 seed, getting the bye, Patrick Mahomes solidifying his MVP status. And then I think it's very easy to sit here and say I'm very confident Saturday night, the Jaguars will play good enough football, even maybe an error or 2. It might be tighter than you think. Josh Dobbs going to get his 2nd start in a row. I feel confident the Jaguars will beat the Titans and win the AFC South. I feel confident. Do you? Those 2 games, how do you feel about that as well?
Yeah, I'm totally on board. I mean, the Chiefs will beat the Raiders. I think that's a very easy prediction to make. Obviously, any given Sunday or Saturday for that matter. But yeah, I'm super confident Chiefs over Raiders. Just make sure no other options on the table. Just secure the 1 seed, get it over with. They'll do it. The Jags will win against the Titans. The Titans have just looked bad the last really month of the season. I mean, quarterback play aside, they haven't had Tannehill obviously for a little while now. It's just not up to par, and the running game isn't particularly doing well for them either.
Yeah.
With Derrick Henry, without Derrick Henry, any of that. So it's been tough, and their defense is just porous. So Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to carve up that secondary that's just been injured and bad all season long. And just look at the state of the 2 teams. One team has been on the rise for 6 weeks. The other team has been in a downward spiral. I think that alone is going to give you Jacksonville.
It just makes you nervous to feel confident about the Jags. It is. It's just a weird thing to sit here.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, Jags win and they're hosting a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, Look at that to me also outside of the play that we've seen from Trevor Lawrence, where we've talked about, okay, he's finally arrived. Like that alone just shows you everything you've got. Like we're talking second year for this guy coming off of the
Yeah.
most dysfunction that you can have with Urban Meyer at the helm and just a disaster of a year. In year two, to not only see the on-field improvement, but to get a division title with this guy, to host a playoff game, talk about the turnaround in 1 year, to get Doug Peterson at the helm, to get this guy in here. Oh yeah, and as we've mentioned, Calvin Ridley coming back with next season for him. This is going to be a quick turnaround for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's not as impressive as what Joe Burrow did last year in year two, but it's close. It's darn close. And one of the reasons it's not as impressive is that Burrow, I mean, from the start of the season in year two, kind of like, I mean, he just jumped off the page. It's been a slow build for Trevor Lawrence, but now
you can say it's offset though by having Chase, Higgins, and Mixon.
True,
but you know,
I would also argue their organizations are just as, I mean, they're both bad organizations. Yeah, I'd argue the Jags a little worse, but they're both not historically great organizations. I would also just say, though, the Bengals are in, especially last year, we did just a tougher division. I mean, the NFC South has just been poop this year. I mean,
yeah, it's been
absolute poop. But I'm confident the Jaguars. It's weird to say, but I feel good about that. So, having said that, we both agree the Chiefs will be the 1, the Jags will lock up the 4. So then going forward, I feel good that the Bills are going to absolutely shit pump the Patriots. At home, Buffalo, noon game. I think there's going to be so much emotion. I think they're going to come out and it's going to be, I just think there's gonna be so much emotion in that stadium.
Inspired football, yeah.
They're gonna play now, and there might be a chance where it gets close, or like midway through the second, all of a sudden it's 10-10, and Josh Allen throws a pick, or there's a fumble, or something happens because they're playing almost too emotional. But I think the Bills, once they actually get through it and get through halftime and like settle in, I think they're gonna play really inspired football. I think they'll win. So by that scenario, I think the Bills then lock up the 2. I think the Bengals will take care of the Ravens because even though the Bengals are also shell-shocked about what happened, I think the Bengals are just a better team. And they're just and even if Lamar plays, he's talking about rusty, and I don't even know if they should play him. If I'm the Ravens, you locked up a playoff spot. Just at this point, does it really matter that much? Like Lamar being 100% healthy is the most important thing. And if you can give him another week, but we'll see. But I'll take the Bengals. So I'll have the Bengals locking up the 3 seed. And then that leaves you with the Dolphins, Steelers for that 7th and final seed. The Dolphins are starting a kid, Skylar Thompson, who grew up 10 miles from where I'm sitting right now across the river in Missouri.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I think the Jets are going to win that game. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat the Browns. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett, as Mike Tomlin said to him after that drive, that was a great clip, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great clip. That's awesome. Yeah.
He comes off after that game-winning drive, and Mike Tomlin, you could see him mouthing, Kenny fucking Pickett, right at Kenny Pickett as he's walking off. Like, that is there is few things that can be cool. Like, I can't imagine things being said to me by people, but if I'm the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers and I'm a rookie and Mike Tomlin is looking at me as I'm walking to the field after a game-winning drive and yells my name with the F word in the middle, that's like the coolest thing that can ever happen.
Yeah, yeah. I think that instills some confidence, man. That was a huge.
I think
that some stones.
Pickett outplays Deshaun Watson. I think the Steelers at home outplay the Browns. I think everything falls for them. I think the Bills win. I think the Jets win with Mike White and a bounce back game for him to kind of instill that he is your backup quarterback going forward. He's got a place in this league against a third string in Miami, playing not good football. And the Dolphins just signed Mike Glennon in the practice squad, guys. Okay. That's how desperate they are. I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah. They're
it's not good. Yeah. It can't be good vibes in the Dolphins locker room. The Jets win, the Bengals win, the Bills win, the Steelers win. Now, if the Dolphins lose and the Steelers lose and the Patriots lose, who gets in?
If the Dolphins, Steelers, Patriots lose,
And it'll still
and
be
the Jaguars lose, then the Jaguars would
no,
get in.
Well, no, the Jaguars
well,
win.
I'm just saying the Jaguars would get in if they lost, and all of those three teams also lost.
Okay.
So they would get in that situation.
But if the Jags,
all three teams lose, though, then the Patriots.
So the Patriots are in that spot. So the Patriots.
Yes.
So if you're a Patriots fan, you are rooting hard for the Jets and the Browns and the Jags this week.
Basically, yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, and yourselves. I mean, if you win, you take care of it yourself and you get in there. Yeah.
So that's my prediction. I'm going to say the Chiefs are your 1 seed, the Bills are your 2 seed, the Bengals win, they get the 3, Jags win, they get the 4, and then I'll take a Chargers win with the Ravens loss. Chargers get the 5. They get to go to Jacksonville. Ravens get the 6. They get to go right back to Cincinnati. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers get the tough assignment of going to Buffalo to get buzzsawed and run over by the Bills. But Mike Tomlin keeps his record of over 500 every season. And Kenny fucking Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
I love that. That video was one of my favorite things I've ever seen. I watched it a million times.
It was so badass. Yeah. I mean, that just shows you like Mike Tomlin's just a really good players coach, man. He gets behind his guys and loves to see it. But yeah, I mean, I'll just say, just on that real quick, super encouraged by how this season has played out in terms of watching Kenny progress. I mean, it does feel like we've seen so much that, like, going into year 2, I'm pretty confident that we'll know really early, if not already, kind of that we might have our guy, at least a guy that we're going to build around that's going to be here for 5-6 years, unless something, completely falls off. But he's been improving, and I mean, he didn't play well that game necessarily. They kept stalling in the red zone, which is not good. But to lead a team in a heated rivalry, his first Ravens game in Baltimore, I think that showed a lot to be able to pull off that throw.
If I was a Steelers fan, I'd feel similar. I'd want 2 things to happen. I'd feel confident going into year 2. Like, I need to see growth, right? You got to see growth by Thanksgiving of next year. That's when it's like, all right, it's got to be clicking, like with Trevor Lawrence year 2. You got about a year and a half in the NFL now as a rookie. You get to start, and then by like Thanksgiving year 2, I need to be like, all right, it's the lights are on. I'm seeing the flashes. That's how we felt with Justin Fields this year too. Like, okay, by Thanksgiving, you've seen the plays. You're like, this kid can play. If I'm a Steelers fan, I'd want 2 things. I'd want a new offensive coordinator, and I know I kind of hate that because it's another new offense for a young quarterback, but I think Matt Canada is a detriment to your team. And then I would need to invest heavily in the offensive line. If the Steelers can all of a sudden have a top 10 offensive line, that helps Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett at his ceiling right now looks like he could be a Jared Goff or maybe a slightly better version of Jared Goff. And that's not a bad thing. That means you can make Super Bowls. That means you can have really great play. But when has Jared Goff been most successful this year and those years with the Rams? When they had an elite run game and a great offensive line. Because
I kind of liken it right now to like Alex Smith. Because of the mobility factor too. So like a guy you can consistently get to playoffs with, and isn't gonna kill you.
It's not the worst thing in the NFL to be at, especially with a great organization like the Steelers. That's a bad place to be when you have a bad organization like the Bears and the Commanders and the Bengals. That's what you saw for Andy Dalton all these years. We're just like, what are we doing? Or like the Bears, when it's like with Mitchell Trubisky, it's like, we're not good enough
for that matter.
Yeah, we're not a good enough organization to elevate like a guy who's 12th, 13th best. But the Steelers are an organization that's like, no, we can elevate a guy who's that type of quarterback. So I would feel positive about Kenny Pickett. I would want a new offensive coordinator. I'd want a new offensive line.
I am not confident in your scenario outcome, although I greatly, greatly want it to happen. So I'll certainly be pulling for it. I feel like the Bills will beat the Patriots. I am confident in that. Lock up that 2 seed. I think the Steelers will beat the Browns. But I think that somehow the Dolphins are going to find a way at home to beat New York and just outmuscle them. Finally, get that run game going again. And Skylar Thompson's also kind of playing with his hair on fire. So that could be a scary element. I mean, the fact that they're at home is a big bonus, but the New York Jets are slightly favored on the road, which, gives you some comfort. And, like I said, like those scenarios can certainly play out. The Steelers, they started 2-6 with, and then towards the end of that run had a rookie quarterback inserted into the mix, had a really rough offensive line, rough offensive coordinator. For them to be in this spot is beyond, I did not expect any of this. Like I did at the beginning of the year say, like, I think this team could go 9-8, 10-7. But then when we saw just the disaster that was like the Mitchell Trubisky experiment, then when we inserted a rookie into the mix, the growing pains there, I was not confident after a 2-6 start we'd get to this point. Very impressive. I feel like if they get in, Tomlin needs to be a candidate for Coach of the Year. I don't know if he would get it, but like, do you got to put him in that mix, right? Like that, he's never won it in his career. Like that would be the time to do it. I would.
He's had an impressive year when you consider all things. I think Pete Carroll, especially if they make it as well, Brian Dable, if they make it, but Doug Peterson, if they win the division, certainly has to be
there's a lot of candidates. I mean, Sirianni, if he gets the 1 seed, like year 2, he got that.
I agree. There was a lot of surprises this year. I mean, there's a lot of things that 5 months ago we said at the beginning of the season we thought it's going to be Rams, it's going to be Niners, it's going to be Cardinals, it's going to be Packers at the top of the NFC, the Buccaneers at the top of the NFC, and it's just been anything like that in the NFC. And then the AFC, the Broncos completely underwhelmed. The Chargers have finally found their stride, and I think are kind of coming into what most people thought they'd be, a wild card team. I think I had them in the wild card. But then, the Jets came out of nowhere. The Giants came out of nowhere. There's a lot of surprises in the NFL this year.
Yeah, Seahawks definitely shocked a lot of people. The Jags for sure. I see this AFC playing out pretty much how it's stacked right now. The Chiefs at the 1, Bills 2, Bengals 3. I think they do beat the Ravens regardless of circumstance at quarterback. So they're at 3. And then at 4 would be the Jags, 5 Chargers, 6 Ravens, and then in that 7th spot, I'd have the Dolphins somehow getting in there and finding that spot. But that would be either the Dolphins or probably Steelers would be those 2 most likely in that spot. So that's kind of how I see that playing out. And I think, we'll talk more about kind of how we see these teams shaking out in the first and second rounds on the road to the Super Bowl. But do you agree with that situation? I know that you had the Bengals winning too, so you got to have them at the 3 and then Jags at the 4. So
Jags 4, and then I have Chargers, Ravens, and
then you have the Steelers obviously in there. So yeah,
I think the only thing that would really throw that off is the Bengals at the Bengals Ravens game is going to be a tough one. I mean, I think the Bengals are the better team. And I think the Bengals are dealing with mentally a ton. And to play, it'd be like if the Bills were playing the Chiefs or, the Ravens or another, like the Patriots are just such a bad offense right now and not playing great football. I feel confident the Bills will come on out and play inspired football. And even if it's emotional, they may make a mistake or two, but they'll get it right against a team in the Patriots that's just not potent offensively. That it does worry me for the Bengals. They're dealing with a ton of emotional stress and trauma right now as well. And the Ravens are fighting for everything. You know what I mean? This game, if you were a Bengals fan, maybe was, not supposed to, if things had gone the way you planned it and Monday night you win against Buffalo, you lock up your division. This game for you would have been icing on the cake of like, hey, we can maybe make a run at the 1 seed or the 2 seed, depending on an upset. But now all of a sudden you got to reformulate everything in your head, deal with the trauma you went through, And now you're playing for the division. I mean, it seems wild that we're in that spot because the Ravens have had such a weird year, and the Bengals have had such a great last 7 games. But here we are, and this game means everything. But that's the where I could see it maybe getting thrown off a bit. But either way, you flop it, and I think the teams will still. I guess if that happens, then what? The Ravens would be the 3.
The Bengals would be the 5.
Bengals would be the 5. So the Bengals and Ravens would not play each other. So I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world for the Bengals either. To lose, if they win, then they're gonna play 90% chance they're gonna play the Ravens again back-to-back weeks. If they lose, they're on the road, but you get to avoid the Ravens, and then you get to go at a Jags team that would be, I feel like, easy shooting, easy pickings.
Burrow over Lawrence.
Maybe not the worst. Maybe not the worst thing in the world for the Bengals to lose, but I don't think the Bengals are. I don't think they're thinking that and built that way. But
no, and you want to host a game. I mean, you want to be able to host that.
Yeah,
and, that's always a factor for sure. So. Yeah, a lot of storylines to play out, despite, most of the seedings all but, kind of locked up. There's still plenty of games with playoff implications this week, and that's how we like it. That's how the NFL likes it for Week 18. So should be an exciting slate to watch, which, again, begins Saturday with those 2 games, Chiefs, Raiders, Titans, Jags. So we'll be looking for that. But anything else, Mark, before we kind of sign off here?
The only thing that I was going to say, we didn't talk a ton of Derek Carr, and
that's true. We should have included that in the notes for sure.
One of the things that I just wanted to say was I went a big rant on Derek Carr on my Saturday show on Saturday, and then I learned today from Albert Breer while listening to The Herd with Colin Cowherd. So I don't want to take, I'm trying to give you the sourcing of where I heard it from. That the idea of people trading for Derek Carr is probably not going to happen. I think Derek Carr is going to get cut. So the way Albert Breer laid it out is that Derek Carr has a no trade clause. Good for Derek Carr. So if you're Derek Carr, unless you are, you get some sort of great benefit and a team says we're going to trade and do a sign and trade because we want to immediately sign you to a long deal, you could have to sign off on it anyway. But all of this has to happen by February 15th. The Super Bowl.
Before his guarantee kicks in, right?
The Super Bowl is the 12th. So we're going to be talking like Derek Carr, and then free agency is not till March. Like when all that. So Derek Carr, if you're cut, you can do whatever, whenever. So Derek Carr could have a month head start on every other team about finding his new team. So that's going to be a really interesting storyline for us to watch come a month from now when we're late in the playoffs, because the Raiders will cut him probably. I think, well, the Raiders got to trade him, get something for him. That's not as important to the Raiders. It's just not paying him. The Raiders just can't pay him. That is their thing. They're poor, so they can't pay him. So I found that fascinating because that thought never crossed my mind when I was talking about it on Saturday that they would just cut him. But Albert Breer went through the contract, figured out that's the most important thing. So that is going to be a big date to look for. And then you got to wonder, if you are a team that as soon as Derek Carr comes to the market, do you go and get aggressive for Derek Carr right away? Or Tom Brady could be available. Do you believe in Jimmy Garoppolo more than Derek Carr? Maybe the discounted price. What is Derek Carr going to be asking for? It looks like Ryan Tannehill might become a free agent as well.
We could see Kirk Cousins on the move this offseason. That's a possibility.
So there's a lot. Like it's going to be we're already starting that. That's the kind of the first big seed I wanted to drop in. I found that information out, so I wanted to share it here because I thought that was really fascinating.
That is, yeah. Now it would be very interesting to see what teams are, heavily invested in Derek Carr. I'd imagine, he is a good enough quarterback to be playing and to be a top, 15 guy, top 10 potentially.
If you were Derek Carr, where would you want to go?
I mean, if you're Derek Carr, I think the most attractive spot probably, if they would be interested, would be Carolina or New
I
York, the Jets. I mean, but
I
I would say probably Carolina.
I would tend to agree. Carolina or New Orleans is also sneaky because they have a ton of
Yes.
weapons.
Yeah, New
But the
Orleans and an
NFC
easy
South,
division.
it's the NFC South because Tampa might come open too, but I don't know if I'd want to go to Tampa. Tampa looks like they're primed for a teardown rebuild. So they're kind of falling apart in the way their contracts are
Yeah,
at.
I mean the division's enticing for the Carolina or the Saints. Either one, you'd have a good chance.
And Atlanta,
at, but the Jets would be too. But the Jets defense playing great. So really, they're a competent quarterback potentially away with young weapons.
Yeah, Bill Belichick and Josh Allen in that division.
Sure, yeah. I mean, at this point though, the outside of the South, there's every division's got some studs.
Yeah, no, I would the South. I mean, you would if you're Derek Carr, I would be honing in on Tennessee. I would be honing in on Carolina, and then I'd keep my options open with the Jets, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Colts. And
the Commanders situation would be enticing if it was a better organization. I just
I struggle
I think you'd
with
stray away from that.
I think if you're Derek Carr, you've been with the Raiders, at least the Carolina Panthers, not that they're like a historic franchise, but they're not like a good God dysfunctional franchise. Like
right.
Raiders are dysfunctional. The Commanders are dysfunctional. The Bears are like historic, just kind of bad. But the Commanders have gone from historic to just absolute mess, like mess. And I don't know if you're Derek Carr, you want to risk that. But you start to say that too, Dan, and that's what's crazy. Think about how many teams you just named there. And there's most likely to me right now, the projections go, there's 3 quarterbacks probably that are first rounders. That are legitimate first rounders, and that's Stroud, Young, and Levis.
Yeah.
And so Stroud and Young look like, especially after that college football playoff weekend, they could be 1 and 2. Levis maybe top 10, certainly top 15, and then that only solves a third of the other teams that I listed. So Derek Carr's going to have some options, and all of a sudden Derek Carr and Jim Harbaugh show up in Carolina with DJ Moore and that young defense.
Yeah, watch out. That would be very, very interesting. Yeah, lots to look for, lots to watch out for this weekend. All starts Saturday, wraps up Sunday. We'll have the recap for you next week as we get ready for the playoffs. For Mark, I'm Dan, and this has been the Football Lounge.